So, good morning and welcome back to the Weight Escape. I have Angela with us today, and she was actually referred to me from Lindsay. You'll remember she was our day one speaker, and I was able to talk to Angela on the phone and just knew right away that she would be an amazing fit for our summit. And I can't wait to get into our interview today. Angela is the CEO and founder of The Body Principles. She's a motivational speaker. I know she's a nutrition expert, a counselor, integrated health specialist. And am I missing anything else, Angela?
Yes, NAS and master trainer.
Right, right. Big stuff, the important stuff. So welcome. I'd love it if you could fill us in a little bit more about you and where you're from. That would be amazing.
Okay, so I was born in Chicago, raised in Virginia, currently living in Washington Township, Michigan. As you mentioned, I'll just kind of highlight, I am an integrated health expert. So I am a licensed counselor as well as an NAS and master trainer and a certified nutrition specialist.
That's quite the combination.
It is, and it's funny because it just kind of evolved into that. You know, I started doing one thing, which led to one other thing, which led to the next thing. And here I am.
Awesome. So I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit, like, how do you use that integrated, your experience of pulling those three together, and what do you offer your clients with that?
What I offer them is essentially integrated health services. And so where you would normally go into, say, like a fitness center, and you would fill out a general health history form, and the trainer would talk to you about your fitness goals. I go a little further than that. So I actually provide what I call an integrated health assessment, which allows me to assess you in terms of your mental, nutritional, and physical health.
So you kind of take the approach of all three: mental, physical, and emotional.
Yes, because I do that because I feel like if you are lacking in one of those other components, so if you're exercising, but you're not eating well, and if you are overly stressed or dealing with depression or anxiety, the other two can have a negative impact on the other. So I feel like if you can find balance, in those three areas, I find most of the time that we can use that as a great foundation to create a comprehensive program where you not only are going to get short-term results, but you're going to get long-term results. And what's going to happen at the end of it is you're going to come out not only a healthier person, but a much better person.
What do you mean by that, much better person?
And by that, what I mean is a person who feels whole and complete, and by that, and you notice I didn't say necessarily like successful, because that's a very different thing. We tend to associate success with how much money you have or your job or your occupation. Whereas I kind of see being whole as being having success or have achieved I would say happiness in all areas of your life. So, like, does your job fulfill you? Are you fulfilled in your relationships? When you eat foods, they empower and energize you. Do you have healthy relationships? Do you exercise on a continuous basis because it makes you feel good or because you feel like you have to? So that's what I try to get people away from. And I find that if you are doing, if you're exercising, if you're eating well, if you're maintaining or forming healthy, supportive relationships, you are a better person because you're happier.
I really appreciate that you said that, because I think sometimes, and I don't know if you find that kind of goes across all of your clients or some, but we tend to use exercise as a form of punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate that you said, like, do you enjoy exercise? Do you enjoy moving? Because I think that mental shift is actually crucial in, like you say, feeling more whole and being more happy.
Yeah, and I want exercise to be something that you want to do because it makes you feel so good, not because it's something that you feel like you have to do.
Do you find that with a lot of your clients then, that they come in feeling like, whether it's nutrition or relationships or jobs or exercises, it's a have to? at least when they start.
Yeah, most definitely. And actually, what I try to do is I try to simplify the whole process first, and so it's not this overwhelming process. Because let's face it, quite honestly, when someone comes in the door, most of the times when they come into a wellness center, they are coming because they're saying, "Okay, I'm overweight."
Right.
Or I'm overweight. I'm not happy because of my weight, and that's the primary thing that gets them into the door. But what I try to do is go back and really focus on the individual and ask some really key questions to get a sense of what their past experiences have been, and what their current experiences are, and how they are reacting to those. So how have you reacted to past experiences that you've had, and how are you reacting to your current experiences? And what I have found is that oftentimes, if we have some issues that we haven't dealt with, or some issues that we're currently experiencing, and if reacting to it in a negative way, what we will do is we will not exercise, we will choose unhealthy foods, we will sometimes even indirectly sabotage healthy relationships, or eliminate the opportunity to form other positive relationships because of some of those past issues that we've never dealt with. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I'm just wondering, like, for some of our listeners, do you have kind of an example that comes to your mind? I'm just wondering if people are sort of sitting there going, oh, do I have issues, or do I have past things that I'm not considering?
Well, and the thing is, I think we all do.
Yes.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, if you were a child and your parents got divorced
Mhm.
at a young age, if you lost a sibling, if you dealt with sickness when you were young, if you moved around a number of times, if you had a lot of instability in your childhood, and let's just say even as a teenager, if you found yourself making decisions that you have a lot of guilt and shame about, if you were, if you're a girl and you made some decisions that you don't, that you kind of keep in your closet, that you don't want anybody to go in and see, if you're a boy who had traumatic experiences that you've never dealt with or had the opportunity to talk about, you're carrying those with you. And what happens is when we don't deal with things that have hurt us in some way, traumatized us in some way, made us feel about ourselves in a very negative way, it will negatively impact your life. It will impact your relationships. It will impact how you take care of yourself. It will impact how you set goals for yourself and what you think you can and cannot achieve. And so, just really getting an understanding of who the individual is so important, because I feel like, how can I help you achieve your goals if I don't know who you are, if I'm not able to put myself as much as possible in your shoes and understood your journey? How can I help you go to a better place if I don't know where you're coming from or what your travels have been? How can I help you move forward and move into the next part of your life?
Do you find that people kind of know, or like, because I know, like, as I'm sort of hearing you, I'm wondering if there's people out there that are like, but I don't even know where I'm at. Like, I'm so lost. I'm so confused. I know I'm unhealthy. I don't know where to start. And I don't even know who I am right now.
Right. And that's why that integrated health assessment is such a powerful tool for me. I mean, I ask some very detailed questions, quite a bit of questions in those three components. So I ask you a lot of mental health questions. I ask you physical health questions, and also nutritional health questions. And what that does is it kind of gives me kind of I would say a picture of the person, but then they fill in their landscape. They fill in everything else around them. And and I find that once I am able to get that information, and actually I'll say this, Jen, actually in obtaining that information, I find probably 95% of the time, as the person's answering the question, you can see them go, oh, oh, ah, as they're answering the questions. And so they get to see themselves, I think, in a deeper way, through that assessment process, quite honestly.
Yeah, I imagine, like, sometimes if you haven't had the chance to step back and ask yourself those questions, or you don't stop and think to ask yourself those questions,
Hmm.
having someone else does start to turn the wheels.
Almost definitely. Or if you are a little fearful of asking yourself those questions, and so I will say one of the most important things is that, from myself, it's really important that I create an environment of safety and trust with those individuals. So as a licensed therapist, I'm licensed, so I have to maintain confidentiality, and I have to create a safe environment of trust. And so that in and of itself, I think, kind of tears some of those walls down that a person would have if they were going into a fitness center and they were just talking with a trainer. I make it very clear that everything that you say with me is completely confidential, will not leave these walls. And I find that that allows people to really open the door to explore who they are and who they're willing to share who they are with me.
I think that's key because, when you sort of think about where people turn to and what they look for when, maybe they've got their doctor and their doctor says, maybe you have a risk of type 2 diabetes, or maybe there's another health condition that's come up and they're kind of, maybe they've known for a while they need to lose some weight, but they haven't really wanted to address it. But now, your physician is saying you need to do something.
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
think there's so many options out there for people, but a lot of them just address the physical or just address the nutrition. And I think, like you say, that piece of getting to know who you are is a piece that's drastically lacking.
Almost definitely, because who you are has a lot to do with the decisions that you make, the choices you make. So, why are you at this point in your life? Say if you are feeling overweight, why did you or have you been choosing foods that you know are unhealthy for you? Why have you chosen to not be physically active? And I would say, unfortunately, a lot of people don't really deal with that. And so they'll have a goal because they're getting married, they're going to their best friend's wedding, they're going on a trip. They'll lose weight for that purpose, but not the purpose of being healthy. And I have to say something that's really, really important. I think it's really important for those that are going to be that are listening. Being healthy is not the same as being thin. And so that's something that I really want to emphasize. Just because you're thin does not mean you're healthy. And your goal should never be just to lose weight, just to lose weight. It should just be to be healthy.
Right.
That's in my opinion.
No, I think that's really crucial. I think
Mm-hmm.
really, really crucial because the number on the scale actually doesn't decide the level of your health.
No, and once you achieve, let's say that your goal is to get to be 142 pounds. Okay. Once you achieve 142 pounds, are you going to stop exercising?
Mm.
Are you going to stop eating well? Are you going to stop this process that we're started? No. You're going to still, I'm saying that it's even more important that you continue to exercise because you never did it to lose weight. You did it because you know it was healthy for you. If you lose weight as a result of that journey, that's just a bonus, if your goal was to lose weight. But once you achieve that goal, you're going to continue to exercise because it's good for you.
Yeah. If you don't mind me backing you up just a little bit, because you said something that actually, really struck me. Because I think sometimes when we look at the choices that we make, we think about like, oh, I'm choosing to exercise. I'm making the decision to exercise. But what you just said really struck me because you said, I talk to my clients and sometimes ask them why they choose not to. And I think that's a really interesting question because introspectively, I think sometimes we don't realize not moving our bodies or are not, choosing to face things is actually a choice.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely is. And, and it's interesting, and it was a significant thing that happened to me in my life where I realized now here I am a person who is genetically thin. My mother died of a massive stroke when I was 13 and she was only 42. And seeing that happen and I will say she was genetically thin. Okay, I want to point that out. I don't know if I said that. But what was so amazing about that is I recognized at that point the importance of taking good care of yourself. And like I said, she was genetically thin, but she was choosing not to take care of herself.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the negative consequence of that was that she ended up having a massive stroke. And so when I asked people, why are you choosing not to exercise? The reason I think that's such an important question to ask is because, and I'll go back a little bit. I recall in my life after my mom had passed away, there was a period of just, I would just say, just overwhelming grief, which I was experiencing. I was not able, I was just essentially numb, Jen. I was numb. It was just too, I had lost my mom. I was taken from my home, and then I fortunately moved in with an aunt and uncle who did not know how to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no discussion about death and what that meant. And keep in mind, I'm 13.
Right.
Okay. So the reason why I'm going back in this story is it's really, really important, because there came to a point where I had some decisions to make. So after that period of grief that I experienced, I would say I was really, really grieving and numb for like that first year. And then I went out for track, and the track coach said, you're going to get a full track scholarship to school. And that was a moment in my life where I could have decided to stay in my grief,
Mm-hmm.
or I could have decided to hear what he said and start running. Because I made that decision to start running, I started to heal. I started to create opportunities for myself. I started to form relationships with people on the team. I started to see myself in a better way. I started developing, self-esteem and self-confidence that I had kind of lost a lot, after dealing with my mom's death. And I realized that when I made that decision, that it transformed my life. And had I not made that decision, I don't think that I would be here today. In fact, I know I would be here today. So when I say that the decision is so important, it is, because it can be the difference of not doing something or doing something that can radically transform your life, because one thing leads to the other. And if you don't take that first step, you're not going to go in the direction that you know in your heart and soul that you should be going. And when you don't make a decision to move forward, things are happening to you as opposed to you making things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that in of itself is transformative. You see what I'm saying?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think that comment actually is very heartfelt, because you're right. Like, you can choose to stay and, like you say, let it happen, or you can choose to make things happen. And I think sometimes we get so, I don't know whether it's overwhelmed or, like you say, you grew up in a home where nobody talked about it. So you don't know how to talk about it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like we get complacent and we don't realize that is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It is an actual choice to sit there and let it happen. But our brains have kind of fooled us into thinking, well, it just is. Like, it just is, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a choice.
It's a choice.
Or you can say, I'm putting my foot in the sand or putting my foot down and actually making the choice to do something different.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to point that out, because, with everything going on with the pandemic, it's easy to kind of fall back and get complacent and choose to kind of let it all happen around us.
Mm-hmm.
And then wonder why we're miserable or stuck, or, it's like you kind of get into that, I don't want to say victim mentality, because that's a bit harsh, but it's almost like, the world's happening around you and you're just choosing to let it.
Mm-hmm. And it is a victim mentality. I don't think it's being harsh. That was honestly, I think that was the hardest thing for me during the time when I had to make a decision to come back the next day. After the coach told me that, I could have stayed home. I didn't have to come back. And then, and I can honestly say, and there were later times in my life where I had other significant events happen where I had to make the decision to keep moving forward. And that's the thing that's so amazing about health, is because you cannot base your choices on what you feel like.
Right.
You just have to do it because you know it's what you need to do. That's the difference. You don't exercise because you feel like exercising. You don't eat well because you feel like eating well. You don't form healthy relationships because it's easy.
Mm.
You do it because if I do these things, it's going to lead to a more positive outcome. If I don't do these things, it's going to likely lead to a negative outcome. You have the choice to decide which. Why wouldn't you choose the better thing for yourself?
Mm. I think that's so important that you said that, because sometimes I think in our heads, we think, oh, well, it should be easy. This should be easy. If it's right, it should be easy. Why is it so hard?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
you get stuck with doing what's easy.
right. And doing easy is going to lead you into a bad place. And not that everything has to be hard, because there are those things that will just kind of naturally happen and you don't really have to think about it. But quite honestly, you think about anything that is major and significant and big, and it takes work, you
Mhm.
know. And the thing is, if you can find joy in the work, that's that's the place you want to get to, and that's the thing that I think is what keeps people from making that step, is they're not able to find joy in the work. We associate work with hard,
Yeah.
and hard can be hard because it's such a good thing that you're working towards, and you wouldn't want it to be easy because it would be so easily achieved by everyone.
Mhm.
But if you have some goals, I always say set a goal that you have to grow to achieve.
Yeah.
If you set those lofty, high, big goals for yourself, and you're constantly doing what's necessary to achieve those goals, that's a really, really great place to be. It's very easy to sit at home and do nothing. It's harder to get up and do the things that's necessary to achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. But at the end of it, you're going to celebrate what you've accomplished. If you don't do anything, there's nothing to celebrate. So is it really hard? Because if it's going to lead you to where you want to go, and where you want to go is going to make you happier, healthier, help you have a better life, then is it really hard, or is it just necessary?
Right. So what would you like, I'm thinking listener wise, when people are sitting there listening to us and going, okay, yeah, I can do that. That's hard, but yeah, I can do that.
Mhm,
Okay, now it's a choice. I can choose to fuel my body appropriately. And yes, it'll take time. It doesn't have to be perfect the first day,
mhm,
but I can choose that. But in terms of the emotional or mental, when people are, I'm stuck. I know I need to do better. I know I want to choose better for myself. I've never put myself first. I don't,
mhm,
maybe I don't value myself. How do
mhm.
you start to navigate those waters with clients? Because I think that's a huge stumbling block for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think as really getting an understanding of what their motivations are for why they came to me in the first place. And if their motivation, sometimes it's okay when you come in and you're motivated by the fact, like say you're a mother and you say, I realize that um, I want to be healthier for my kids and I want to be healthy for my grandkids. That's a great goal to have initially. But I will tell you, one of the things that I try to get clients to find are their goals for themselves. What are you how would you, like, what's happy for you, and how would you describe that? And notice I said happy for you.
Yeah.
And once I get the person to explain to me like what happy is for them. And notice I said for you, not for you as mother, not for you as wife, not for you as employee, but what is happiness for you? Most of the time when they answer that question, that in itself is a motivating factor. And I hope I answered your question. I'm not sure I did.
I love the train of thought that you're on, because I think that's a big piece. And I know for people that I've worked with, it's almost like sometimes they have a hard time figuring out what that happy is for them, because
Mhm.
they know they want to do it for their kids, or they know they want to do it for their spouse, or they know like at work they contribute and they know what their identity is at work, let's say. But when you strip all that away, it's almost like they've been so long giving, giving, giving
Mm-hmm.
that they've lost that sense of self.
And I'm glad, Jen, I'm glad that you said stripped away because it makes me think of a conversation I was having with a client. And this client, she openly admitted, and this is not a counseling client, this is just a personal training client. She was saying that, she felt like as long as she had her Gucci bag and she had this and the makeup was right, she felt very positive about herself, but I said, okay, but take all that away, strip that away. And then how do you feel?
Mhm.
And what makes me think when you said stripped away, it also makes me think of like as a mother, when you strip away the kids, you strip away the house. If you're at work, when you strip away that title that you've earned at work, that car that you drive that you've earned from your work, who are you? And truly what makes you happy? Could you be happy just being you, separate from all that? Are you happy with you? And if you're not, I'm happy to help you figure out how to be happy, to not have to have those things, to not have to have the Gucci bag, to not have to have perfect kids, the perfect husband, the perfect job, the nice car. I'm saying if you didn't have any of that, would you truly be happy? Are you and happy with yourself and who you are?
Mhm. So I got to follow up with that question. When you find that you get to do that work with clients and they start finding that happiness within, do
Mhm.
you find that the nutrition, the relationships, the health all starts to kind of come together?
It does, and it does. And I think one of the things that I'll real emphasize is I think it comes together, one, because one of the things I feel like I would like to think that I do really well is I simplify the process for one. So we're setting like daily goals. So as we go throughout the day, like I want you consciously thinking about your decisions, your actions, your choices, your behaviors. What are you choosing to eat? What are you choosing to think about? How are you sitting down when you know you should be getting up and walking around? Those little choices that you're making throughout the day. And what happens is as I get my clients into thinking about how do I be my best, how do I make the best decisions, how do I make the best choices every day along the way, eventually they gradually get to where they're going, and they do so in such a powerful way that even though work is being done along the way, when they get to the end of it, and it really, I don't really say at the end because I've had clients that have been with me for 12 years, 8 years, 6 years. So I don't know that the journey stops as much as it's kind of continuing, and I'm just kind of supporting the journey, I guess.
I think that's totally true because I think, like you say, when you start to move towards that, it's almost like an uncovering
Hmm.
to be more of who you are. And I think that's why, those of us in these kind of professions do have long-term clients, because when you start to get into that and the happiness starts, you realize that there's so much more if you're willing to kind of let go, whether it's expectations, whether it's, um, putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and you're actually the truer you are to yourself, the more connected you are and the happier you are with everything else.
And also too, the thing is, I think why the journey kind of continues is because life continues. And so each day, you have these challenges that you're faced with. I don't think that you ever go through a day where you're not challenged in some way, but feeling that you have the tools and the support necessary to make better decisions as those challenges come your way. I think it's a really great place to finally be. To feel like you have control again over what, like, you're making life happen as opposed to it happening to you.
Yeah, I think that's so important to point out, because sometimes we think when you set those goals, when we get there, everything's going to be perfect. And it's so not.
It's not. No, it's not.
We just become better equipped to function through challenges and enjoy the happy moments and, really live life. But living life is that spectrum of, everything that does happen.
And how you're going to react to it. Yeah, definitely.
Right. I think, yeah, no, I think that's so important to say, because I think sometimes we get so focused on where we're going.
Hmm.
We get to enjoy the journey along the ride. Like you say, you find joy through the pieces, but also when
Hmm.
you come out the other side, it's not so much that everything just miraculously falls away. Like you say, you still have to move your body. Just because you get to that weight doesn't mean that you just now get to, sit on the couch and do nothing for the next 40 years until you retire, right? It's
Right.
you still get to move, and you still get to choose food, and you still get to feel good, and you still get to face life. You're just in a very different position doing so.
Most definitely. Yeah, in a healthier position to do so. That's what you want.
So if somebody's out there thinking, okay, I know I've got a lot going on, and I know
Hmm.
I want to make the choice for me to move into something healthier, what piece of advice would you give them to get started?
I would say first be kind to yourself. Understand that you're gonna make some mistakes along the way. Sometimes you're not going to make the right decisions or choices, but that's okay. Um, I would tell them to be patient, with the process
Mm,
and understand that it's going to take time and it's going to take some dedication and commitment. And I would say if you're willing to do the work, I can guarantee you that you're going to be happy with the end result. I can guarantee you will be happy with the result.
but you have to do the work.
But you have to do the work. Truly, you have to do the work. And it's it may be uh, it may be hard. It may seem hard, but as I said earlier, though, I can guarantee you when you get to the end of it, you're going to be happy because you did the necessary work. You're not going to have any regrets.
Right.
And I can't think of anything more powerful than that.
Totally true. I really, really appreciate you coming on and telling us your personal story too, because I think we have that perception that if you're thin, you're healthy. And I think
Mhm.
we have that perception of, sometimes I don't need to face stuff that's going on or take a look at what's going on in my past to help me get towards the future I want. And
Mhm.
I really respect and appreciate not only you telling us your personal story, but how important it is to be able to address and face grief or, challenges, especially in teenage years. They're so formative.
Mhm.
And also to say, to remind us that, you get to choose how it happens to you or for you.
Most definitely. And everything, good or bad, that you've experienced was a necessary, essential part of your journey. And it's because those things happened to you, it's because you had those experiences, it's because you had to deal with those situations and circumstances that you are who you are. And one of the things that I often say is what you do determines you,
Mm,
but also I will say, what has happened to you has determined who you are. But who you're going to eventually become is determined by the choices, decisions, and actions the decisions that you make and the actions that you take. And so if you're looking at your life right now and you're not where you want to be, don't get sad by it. If you're not where you want to be motivated, be empowered, because if what you do determines you, that means that if you start taking steps now to improve your life, it's going to get better. If you don't, it won't. And how amazing and powerful is that? You have control over that. You can make the decision today to start doing the work, making the necessary, taking the necessary steps, making the necessary decisions to improve your life so that you can live the life that you want. That's amazing to me to be able to do that.
I just what strikes me when you say that is I think we have a lot more power in any moment than we sometimes let ourselves think.
Oh, most
And
definitely.
we feel powerless, but there's actually a lot of power within inside us if we're willing to look at it.
Oh, definitely. And at a time right now where we're having COVID-19, I know some people have lost jobs, some people have lost loved ones. People are really struggling financially. Some people's businesses are still closed. And yes, you can have that will give you many reasons to want to sit down, not move, to not take care of yourself, to feel like a victim, and oh, why me, why this, you know, um, or it can be a motivating factor to say why, wow, this is a perfect time to rediscover myself, to think about my natural instincts, talents, and abilities, and think what else I can do, what else I can offer the world during this very challenging time. I can take this time to um, reflect and think about my life and start thinking and setting some goals that I have to, grow to achieve. This can be a very great time to think about that, and also to maybe think about some relationships perhaps that you maybe that you haven't nurtured
Mm.
the as much as you should. It's the perfect time to do that when people have lost loved ones. I can't think of any better time to reach out to the ones that you have.
Right.
So it's just I see it as a very important time. It can be a stepping stone towards creating a even better future for yourself. So we're all done through this, you can say, "Wow, I grew through
Mm.
that storm." How amazing is that?
I think it's so amazing that you said that because I think we have that choice. Like you say, we have that choice in every moment and we can see it happening around us or happening to us or, grab the bull by the horns and make a choice and say, okay, no, I'm choosing to take power in this moment. And this is what I want out of this experience.
Because either way, you're going to have that experience. When you're in a storm, like I often say, like when you're in a boat in a storm, it can be really scary because it's raining and your boat is going swishing back and forth, and you're kind of troubled by that. But if you're going from point A to point B, and long after you've left point A, okay, and you're dealing with this rain and you're dealing with the storm and your boat's being shaken to and fro, you know that eventually you're going to get to the other side. You know that the storm's not going to last forever. Life has shown us that storms don't last forever. You're going to always have a rainbow. You're going to always have sun at the end. What are you going to do about it, though?
Mm.
What do you want what do you want when you get to the other side? What do you want it to be? And what it's going to be is going to be determined by what you do during that storm. And that's the thing that I think is really important for people to think about it, is, and not even just a storm, but just in life. What are you doing to make your life what you want it to be?
Mm. I think that's an extremely powerful and amazing way to kind of wrap everything up. You just said it perfectly. We're in this storm, we're in this boat. We get to choose how we want to deal with it. We
Hmm.
can't, we're here.
Yeah.
We're here and you can choose to sit and ride it out and complain or stress or, you know, do nothing. And that's a
Hmm.
choice. Or you can do something different and change. So
Hmm.
I would love it for those listening if you reach out to us and tell us what you want to do and what you want to get from this storm. Because sometimes I think it's powerful to let people know, or especially if you're like, oh my gosh, I never even thought of it that way. Reach out and tell somebody because it kind of gives that little piece of accountability, or it starts that conversation for you, especially if you're not used to choosing to do something in the middle of a storm.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. I will definitely say, yeah, definitely reach out. I love when the one most I was to say this, the most amazing thing that I have learned from this particular time that we have been in is I have seen some amazing resilience
Mm.
um, in people. And I think it has pulled out of people more than they knew they had inside, you know. And so that would be what I would encourage anyone listening is to, you know, really think about what is it that you have inside that you can use, and what so you know who are you, as I mentioned, you know, who are you naturally, instinctively, but also think about, okay, who am I saying I am, and how much value am I placing on myself by the decisions and choices I make each day, you know, and are your decisions and choices reflective of how you're feeling about yourself right now? And so if you're making some decisions that you know are unhealthy, how do you get yourself to a healthier place so that you can make and start so you can make, you know, healthier decisions and be healthier. And I think even in the act, it's like kind of for the chicken for the egg or the egg before the chicken. So even if you're not feeling good about yourself, when you start making healthier choices, it's going to help you feel better about yourself. So I think that even if you're not motivated to take that first step, I'm saying give it a try, do it, because you're worth it. You know, I think you're valuable. Um, you are an essential and important part of this world, and if you weren't, you wouldn't be here. So why not do whatever you can to take care of the most valuable uh, the most valuable person is you. You know, quite honestly, you know, no one else is like you. You're unique and you're special. There's no other Jen and there's no other Angela, you know. I mean, there may be another Jen, but there's no other, you know, and there's no other Angela Moore. So, you know, take care of it. Take care of it, who you are.
You know, guys, I really encourage you to actually go and rewind that last 3 minutes. Because what Angela said, if you really, really let it sink in, and you may have to hear it 2, 3, 4 times. But if you're valuing yourself, how does that reflect in your daily decisions? I would really encourage you to go back and listen, because she had 3 or 4 questions there related to that are crucial. And I don't want to repeat them because I want you to actually go back and hear them. Because if you're willing to go back, listen to them, and let yourself let that land, and maybe even journal about it, maybe even write some stuff down, this
Mm-hmm.
could be a changing point in your life. And I'm going to come out and say that because I've had the experience of going and doing some of those things. And sometimes we're like, yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are actually willing to rewind this and just let those questions that Angela asked land, you could have a completely different result and know what that next step is inherently from listening to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would encourage you to do, because it's vital. And like she says, there is nobody else like you. You are important. And when you start treating yourself like that, you're going to start going in the directions that you want to go.
Most definitely. Yes.
So Angela, thank you so much for being here today. You're very probably one of the most heartfelt people I've ever met.
Oh, thank
And I
you.
know our listeners are going to get a lot out of this. I know I have. So thank you so much for your time. And if you
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been such an honor and pleasure to be with you.
we'll have your contact information, we'll have your website and everything, and guys, reach out. Like I said, there's very few programs out there that include the aspects that Angela does. Like I said, some do nutrition, some do exercise, but to get that emotional, mental, personal piece of it is crucial for transformation. Crucial. So thank you again, Angela. We so respect your time. And for our listeners, we will see you again tomorrow.